What's going on, everybody? You are listening to episode number 75 of Trail Tales. My name is Kyle O'Grady. I am a thru hiker. I am a peak bagger. I am a huge hiking nerd, and every single week on this podcast, I chat with another thru hiker, another peak bagger, or another hiking nerd about their experiences on the trail. Baker Bo Corney, you know him, you love him. He's back for episode like 5 or 6 or something. I don't even know how many episodes, but a lot of episodes he's done. He's back again. We went into this episode without much of a plan. Just roughly, we were like, maybe we'll talk about gear, and then we basically just ended up talking about gear for the entire episode, but that's okay, because as you guys all know, gear is not discussed on this show very often, so might as well change it up a little bit and dedicate pretty much an entire episode to talking about ultralight backpacking gear. So it was a good time. Baker, thank you for coming on, and do I even have to thank him at this point? I kind of feel like it's an obligation, so yeah, I'll still thank him. Thank you, Baker, for coming on. Let's do it again soon. Folks, Instagram, you gotta go follow me and the show on Instagram. My personal Instagram is @KyleHatesHiking, and my Trail Tales podcast Instagram is @TrailTalesPod. Email, I haven't plugged the email in a while, I feel like, so send me an email if you like the show. If you have any suggestions, guest suggestions, just general suggestions for my goofy ass, trailtalespod@gmail.com. And definitely go check out my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Things have been going pretty well on there, honestly. I'm at the point now where I reach way more people on YouTube than this podcast, but still doing it because it's super fun. So Kyle Hates Hiking on YouTube. Go check that out. Before we get into my conversation with Baker, I need to take a second to tell you guys about this episode's sponsor. You know him, you love him, Sawyer Products. Now, rather than plugging their filters and their amazing insect repellent products, this week instead, I'm going to take a second to tell you all about the amazing work that Sawyer is doing to bring clean water to the country of Liberia. That's right, Liberia. With the help of Sawyer's filters, Liberia will be the first developing country with clean water, border to border, in every single household by December of this year, 2020. That's unreal, honestly. Clean water, border to border, every household by the end of the year. So far, Sawyer's water filters, that's right, the same ones that myself and tons of other thru hikers and backpackers use on the trail, have been able to reduce diarrhea by over 90% in Liberia. Now, here in the United States and other developed countries, we are very lucky because diarrhea usually isn't a huge deal. I mean, it definitely sucks, don't get me wrong, but it's usually not super life-threatening, but that's not necessarily the case in a lot of places around the world. So the work that Sawyer is doing is super, super important. They're saving a lot of lives, and I'm honestly very blessed to be able to work with a company that not only makes such cool products for hiker trash folks like me, but is also just so concentrated on helping people around the world. So I'm going to leave a link in the show notes to an article all about their work in Liberia. You guys should definitely go check it out. Sawyer.com if you want to learn more about them generally and their awesome products. And with that said, thank you, Sawyer. Let's get into the episode with Baker Bo Corney, the gear episode. I don't even know how to introduce him. Appalachian Trail Class 2018, Florida Trail Class 2018, bunch of other stuff Class 2018 and other years. Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a very special guest who I'm sure you guys have never heard of before, Mr. Baker Bo Corney. What's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going, Kyle?
It's going good, Baker. This is your 5th or 6th episode of Trail Tales.
20 something, I can't remember.
I can't remember either. In fact, I didn't even remember which one was our last episode. So I went and I looked, and I believe our last episode was the month late Thanksgiving episode that we did back. So it was early December, something like that. Is that correct?
I guess so. I actually thought that the last one we did was the 50th one, but you're right. I'm pretty sure was that the 50th? Let me see.
No.
You're right. There was a trail grievances
That was one. I think that was only the second one, but that one
Well,
sticks
sorry,
out to
the
me.
trail, not Trail Grooves. I'm sorry, the where we were thankful.
Yeah. That was okay. So I'm looking at it right here. That was the Thankful. The late Thanksgiving was published on December 10th, and that was number 56. So by the transitive property, that is more than 50. So I believe that was our last episode.
I'm glad that you were able to use some math to deduce that, because I was struggling a little bit.
You know, I studied computer science for 4 years in college, so I'm pretty good at proofs, and the transitive property is very important for proofs. So anyways, folks, before I go down that rabbit hole, Baker's back. We don't have any plan for this episode, no theme, but I think it would be fitting to possibly talk about some gear. I know I always say, like, oh, I don't talk about gear because it doesn't matter and shit, but I've been going down the rabbit hole of researching gear lately for, like, the first time in legitimately years and years and years. I feel like my gear nerd has, like, my inner gear nerd is starting to come out again. So that's been on my mind a little bit. I'm starting to buy some new stuff, and maybe we'll talk about that. Baker also really wants to talk about the fact that Trail Tales is now sponsored by Sawyer, or at least it is for this episode. So I kind of want to talk about that too, because maybe there's like one person out there who's half curious about that. So maybe we'll talk about that. Does that sound good, Baker? Is there anything else that we can talk about? Anything else you can think of? I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Well, I wanted to first say, I feel like since the last time I was on, you've had quite a slew of, like, legitimately in the thru hiking community, famous guests. I'm pretty sure you had Jupiter, and then Bigfoot was recent, and Darwin.
And Darwin too, yeah.
You're just like, you're skyrocketing
and
right
Chance,
now. And Chance. Oh my
and
gosh.
Julia Sheehan.
This is so many. At this point, you're just so famous that I'm honestly surprised I was even invited to do this.
I know. I thought about just not ever talking to you again since I gained 6,000 subscribers, but
that would be totally understandable. And you probably should. Like,
every 1,000 subscribers, I cut out a certain population of my friends, and you're still in there, but we'll see how much longer it lasts.
Wow, that's really. I'm flattered, honestly. If you look at my follower count, I just don't know how I qualify to be on this show.
This might be the last Baker episode. Unless my channel tanks, in which case I will be begging you to come back on. No, we kid, folks.
Desperate.
Obviously, we kid. Yeah, but you totally dodged my question there. Anything else we should?
No, that's why I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to say how you're. I don't know. It seems like things are on the upswing.
Things are going good, except for the 2 weeks I didn't post recently. I was taking a little break. We're good.
It happens. And maybe you're also cranking out like 7 YouTube videos a day. So
7. How much? I wish, dude. I would have so many more subscribers if I was doing 7 videos a day.
7 a day.
I can barely do 1 a week. Yeah, dude. So now that you're a part of my very famous lineup of guests over the last couple months, let's talk about. Actually, this is where we're gonna start. You've been doing like a couple hikes recently, just local stuff, and I'm kind of curious to hear about that because I've been cooped up all winter. And now I've been cooped up for the most part this spring, because of medical issues. Not medically. That makes it sound like I have a medical issue. Because of coronavirus.
Kyle,
I was gonna try to say not coronavirus, but I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, it sounded really dire. I was like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying. It made it sound like I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm fine." But the world is not fine right now with everything going on. But anyways, yeah, dude. What have you been up to hiking wise and just life wise? How's life in Colorado? How is the hiking in Colorado these days?
Yeah, it's been good. It's so it's mid-May right now. The snow has been melting rapidly, which has been really nice. So I did actually get a pair of skis this winter, and so I was learning how to ski. And then the Rona hit, and so that shut down all the ski resorts pretty quickly. So then I kind of had to hibernate for a little bit. But yeah, snow is starting to melt. There was a good month there, like in April and late March, where like every hike Little Bear and I went on was like it was just like post Soul City. I didn't have snowshoes or anything, so it just wasn't. The weather was like kind of warm, so the temperatures were okay, but it was just like every time we go to hike, it was just totally full. So luckily the mountains where we live in kind of a remote part of Colorado, and in Colorado we're allowed to go out and recreate locally. That's still part of the part of what's allowed with the shutdowns and everything. So we do have a lot of mountains nearby, which is really good. But yeah, it's been really snowy. So we had all these times where we're going to try to hike to an alpine lake, or like try to get to this specific destination. And it's pretty rare that on a day hike, we don't make it as far as we intended to. Like that's pretty rare that we can't, manage to make it like 5 miles or something up to like where we're trying to go. But yeah, for various reasons, between like times where my hands were completely frozen because I didn't bring enough gloves, or like
enough gloves.
Yeah, I actually like layer my gloves. So I have sometimes I wear like literally 3 pairs of gloves. My hands get very cold. Or more likely like the snow being so deep that we just get completely like, it's just Postal City, like I said. But the snow's been melting. It's been nice and warm here. I know that on the east side, you guys have been getting the east side. I guess you live on the east
coast,
side.
Northeast.
Yeah, well, I know that like the Midwest too has been getting like polar vortices and stuff, but or vortexes. I don't know the plural of that word, but yeah, it's actually been really warm we're in Colorado, and so the snow's been melting, which is really good. So we finally had a couple hikes where we were able to go back and like make it to the destination of the hike. And we've done a couple overnighters too. So those are our first times doing an overnight trip for this year, which has been really fun. But it's still like when you get to the high elevation, it's just totally snowed in. So I was planning on hiking like a 14er. So we were going to camp at the base of it and then try to hike it the next morning. And I got there and like the afternoon before, I kind of like explored around a little bit, and every route, like there's multiple routes you could take to get up there. Every route was just a huge snowfield. And so you would basically be like winter mountaineering to get up there. And I don't have an ice axe, and more importantly, I don't have the skills or any of the knowledge on how to do that. It was the kind of thing where like, I mean, it was like 100, 200 feet of straight snow or ice, or I don't know what it was some sort of icy looking substance. And so I was like, if I slip, I'm just going to be sliding, so I was like, I don't think it's a good idea. So I still got to wait a little while for the really, really high elevation stuff to melt out. But in terms of like day hiking and just kind of overnight trips to like really, really pretty alpine lakes and stuff, like we're able to do that now, which has been, we're very fortunate that we're able to do that. And it's not very crowded on the trails too. It doesn't feel unsafe. Like I don't feel like I'm like breathing down people's necks and everything. Like we pass a handful of hikers every time, and we just, you step way off the trail, or you cover up your face with like your buff or whatever. And it really hasn't been that bad. Like I haven't been in any situations where I felt like, it was not safe and we were, potentially causing the virus to spread and stuff like that. So we're definitely lucky that we're able to do that. And yeah, I'm just getting excited for summer. It's pretty, it's really, it's our last summer we were getting married, and so we were kind of busy with the wedding and stuff. So that kind of like, it was fun, of course, but it meant that there wasn't as much time for hiking. But this summer we have like every plan that we had with our family or whatever has been all canceled.
Right.
The plan is just kind of to, hang out in Colorado and stuff. And they're slowly reopening more parts of Colorado. And so I'm hoping that maybe I can hike almost all, or if not all, but most of the Colorado Trail this summer, like try to do it in sections.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we'll see though. That does require driving through other towns and stuff. The good thing about a section hike is it's actually, if like I was reading the Colorado Trail Coalition's website, which is like the organizing body behind it, and they actually are recommending that people do like fully supported hikes this year, and that you don't hitchhike into town, you don't take shuttles, you don't go to hostels, you don't like go buy your groceries and your resupply in town and eat at restaurants. They're saying like, if you can, have someone just drop off your food for you and your anything you need for your resupplies, which is a definitely good idea for through hiking. But for me, I'm still working full time, so I can't like take a few, like a month or two off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hoping to section hike it, and so like Little Bear will drop me off and drive me places, and then the good thing about that is we'll avoid having to ever go into towns. Maybe stop for gas, but otherwise shouldn't even have to do that. So. Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, it depends. Like if they've reopened things. If there's plenty of hiking near where we live, I can do that. But we'll see. I'm just kind of, I'm just throwing around ideas right now, just hoping to, just get some stuff going for this summer. So
yeah, man. Well, I'm glad to hear you've been getting out and stuff. I'm also pretty lucky in that, I haven't been doing the big mountains here, the big boys I like to call them, but there's still like local trails and stuff that I can do. And so I'm just really stoked that in the midst of all this nonsense, I don't live in an area where I literally can't hike anything, you know? That would really suck. So I'm pretty thankful to have access to mountains as well. And this time of year, you're not really supposed to hike on the long trail or any of the side trails, the high elevation trails, because they get really muddy from all the snow melt and super eroded and stuff if tons of people are using them. So once that quote closure by the Green Mountain Club is lifted, which should be in just like another week and a half, 2 weeks, I think they're letting people that are local hike on the long trail. They're still not wanting people to travel into Vermont, but if you're already here, I'm pretty sure they're gonna like let people hike on it still. So not like they're just gonna close the long trail, which is kind of dope. So I might honestly, depending on how long New Hampshire and New York don't want people traveling into their states, I might just be hiking the long trail again this summer for a third time. Maybe. Just probably in sections, obviously, because I'm still working and stuff, but or just at least exploring various areas, re-hiking various areas. So we'll see what happens. But dude, let's talk about gear a little bit. Do you want to talk about gear?
Yeah. Speaking of, I just ordered a new tarp today for because we have a 2-person tent, but if I'm hiking, I'm hopefully going to be doing a lot of solo hiking this summer. That's not to say I'm trying to avoid Little Bear, just saying that I'm doing doing a lot of the Colorado.
You're the one
trail.
that said it, bro. I wasn't even thinking it.
I had to clarify. I don't want to get in trouble.
I'm going to do a lot of hiking, and not at all because I want to get the fuck away from my wife, but
not because we're quarantined inside and really tired of each other. No, that's not. It's not that at all. No, that's not it. So I ordered a new tarp so we can. I've also been doing a little gear perusing as well. So.
What tarp did you get? Wait a minute, tarp? I thought you had the duplex. This is what we were going to talk about, Baker. Why do you?
No, I have a duplex, but the tarp I ordered is like a quarter of the weight. So,
Damn.
So I got the Z-Packs.
The duplex was too heavy for you. Are you really going to tell me that right now?
I mean, you know me. I'm a gram weenie. I like to look at my lighter pack and optimize my spreadsheet and stuff. But no, it's the Z-Packs. Pocket tarp with storm doors on it. Crazily enough, they sell a version without doors, and I'm like, it's just wide open. I mean, pretty much wide open on one side.
Well, that's just absurd. That's way too light.
That's just absolutely nonsense. But no, it's like 5.2 ounces with the lines on it and stuff. I mean, it's no one wants to hear about ounces, but to me,
I think a lot of people do want to, and honestly, okay. I do too. So what? Okay, so. For someone with my amount of experience, I feel like I should probably know this already, but I've never really thought about sleeping with a tarp, and honestly I haven't really talked to many people who do, or at least talked about it with them anyways. So, bugs. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me. Yeah. What about bugs?
So that's the thing is that depending on where I'm hiking, there may not really be any bugs, right? And also the time of year.
Colorado doesn't have any bugs?
It does have bugs. So, but again, it depends on the section and the time of year. So
that's true, okay.
The past 2 times we've gone out, there haven't been barely any bugs. But this is early May. It's their bug season will kick up more when the snow's really melted. There's a lot more standing water and then the temperatures get warmer. But even then, the bugs, when I hiked here last summer, the bugs were at dusk, they'd be kind of bad, but then when it gets fully dark or really pretty dark after the sun's gone down, they pretty much go away. And to be honest, I don't get too bothered by if it's mild mosquitoes, it just really doesn't bother me. I guess there were a lot of times the AT when people are especially Little Bear, she definitely attracts them a lot more. There's certain genetic markers or something that attract mosquitoes and other flying insects more. Yeah, so she's definitely one of those people that gets bothered by them, but for me, they don't bother me as much. So my plan is to first have a bug head net, which is if I'm covering my sleeping bag and they're not super bad, which I've never seen swarms of them here. Most of the time, there's some areas there could be in Colorado, but if it's a bug head net helps if you're just trying to keep a few off. But then from there, I can also add in a bivy. So a bivy being a fully enclosed, almost like a sleeping bag type of thing. But then it kind of covers your head too, and it has netting, so you can still breathe, but it keeps bugs out. And then bivvies have other advantages too. If you use a quilt, they reduce drafts because it's another kind of sheet over top of your quilt. So I might add a bivy on there if the bugs are too bad. But I've cowboy camped several times out here. I've slept under. I have a different tarp, which is like way too tiny. Like I've used it a couple times and like just got soaked by rain. So I was like, okay, I can't.
So that's what my next question was going to be, like downpours under a tarp.
So I got a tarp the very last bit that I was in Arizona. Like for Arizona, first of all, when we were there, it was barely, the beginning of the trip was like snowing, but after that went away, it barely rained and there are no bugs. So I was cowboy camping pretty much every night. So I thought, like, I don't need to carry around this whole 2-person fully enclosed shelter. So I got like an inexpensive tarp just to kind of test it out. But the tarp I got was way too tiny. I mean, it's like 8 feet long by 4 feet wide. Like I barely like it'll like work in a light downpour at best. But if there's any sideways rain or anything, then it's gonna be bad. So I was like, I can't take this to Colorado because you get some nasty thunderstorms here, and it's like, what's the point of carrying this shelter if it like doesn't actually keep the water out? And I know that some hardcore people could definitely make that work, but I'm not that hardcore. But the advantage of the pocket tarp I mentioned is that it's actually a fully enclosed tarp. It's like a hexamid style tarp, so it's fully enclosed, so it actually will keep like most of the rain off. So yeah, that's why I switched that one. It's also lighter too. So I was like, it's kind of a win-win. So yeah, this is a fully enclosed one. I'm fairly confident that in like serious rain, it'll keep me acceptably dry.
What about like water running underneath, like into your sleeping area?
So
like
I have
campsite selection. Are you well versed in good campsite selection?
I would hope so. I mean, I think at this point I've had enough soggy nights in my tent to know like what a good campsite is or not. But I have a ground sheet. And then, definitely campsite selection. Like, it's pretty obvious when there's a divot and you can see how water's been running through there and stuff like that. So it definitely, I think I'm pretty sure I can avoid like, waking up in a pool. The other thing I will say about just being wet in general, like your gear getting all wet, like in Colorado and dry places, things dry out actually pretty quick. So yeah, you might get like kind of damp overnight. The main thing is like you don't want to get hypothermic, right? Like if it's really cold and wet, that's a problem. But if you're just mildly uncomfortable, like you're already going to be pretty damp in a fully enclosed tent, anyways, right? Like if it's really raining heavily. So the main thing is like if the sun comes out the next day, or even if it's just like kind of breezy, the low humidity, like your stuff dries out really quick. So it's not like the AT where like you get something wet and it might be wet for like a week because the sun never comes back, or it just kind of keeps drizzling all day, or you never get a chance to go into town or anything. Mm-hmm. So it's a little different out here. Like if I have to like walk through snow and like my shoes get wet, like within 15 minutes or like 20 minutes of like walking, if it's like sunny out, my feet feel dry already. So that's another part of it, right? That's part of the calculation is that I can handle my gear getting a little more damp because it's going to dry out. So
let me ask you this. So you've done the AT and you've also done a decent amount of West Coast hiking at this point. Mm-hmm. Or not West Coast specifically, but just Western hiking, I guess I'll say.
Yeah, Mountain West, I guess.
Yeah, Arizona, Colorado, and stuff like that. So would you bring a tarp on the AT, or aka in an environment that gets a lot more rain and is a lot more wet and humid than the drier western terrain?
I probably would. The main reason that I wouldn't bring a tarp on the AT would be for bugs, because it was definitely very buggy on the AT. So and if I had a bivy with me too, I've never used a bivy, so I don't know how annoying it is to be like in a bivy with bugs like right like inches from your face flying around. But I think it was definitely buggy enough at times on the AT to justify having like a tent with a fully enclosed shelter, or fully enclosed netting.
To justify that.
Yeah, I think it was. And also and the amount of rain too. I mean, it rains a lot. So I haven't gotten this tarp yet. I'll have to test it for rainworthiness. I'm imagining it's almost as rainworthy as the duplex that I have now, which is like the tent that Little Bear and I use. So so we'll see. But yeah, I would say that I would be much more cautious about bringing a tarp. I mean, with the AT, you have shelters too, so like maybe it's actually you could get away with it. But if you don't have if you can't get into a shelter, then yeah, it could be a rough night.
Yeah. Yeah, and you never know, like the shelters could be full and stuff. So
yeah.
Well, that makes sense then. I'll tell you, as I prepare for future hikes, not near future, but future, I'm going to be out there, out west, on various, not really sure where exactly yet, but I'd like to do one of the long West Coast trails. I'll leave those to the imagination of the listener to know what trail I'm talking about. But
I'm really curious which ones now. I can't.
I know
think of
it's a long list of 2 different trails. So
2 whole trail. I don't know.
Use your imagination, but obviously no hammock. Well, I guess you could try to use a hammock, and maybe you can in certain sections, but probably not the best idea. No. So, anyways, I'm looking at transitioning, and already have started to transition to a tent system. And so this stuff is on my mind. Right now, I have a Big Agnes Fly Creek UL2. I bought it around this time last year because a friend of mine was selling it used on Facebook Marketplace for like $100. And I wasn't even like looking for a tent, but I just saw that and I was like, pretty sure that's like a $300+ tent. And he's selling it lightly used for $100. So I was like,
yeah, that's a good deal.
I'm just going to buy it. So I did. And so I have that thing, and that's going to hold me over for the time being. I know, folks, I'm like kind of done with the hammock. It's kind of weird to say.
Oh my gosh. Your whole identity now.
Mostly in preparation for sleeping on the ground in West Coast trails that I'm going to be doing in the future, hopefully. But not because I wasn't satisfied with the hammock, because I was very satisfied with the hammock, as most people know, especially
very
you,
satisfied.
Having hiked with me. Satisfied.
Very.
But anyways, so that's my current tent, but I'm definitely going to be getting a lighter tent before I embark on any sort of legitimate long through hike. And one of the tents that I'll be honest, right now I'm debating between 2 tents, and one of them is the duplex. And so I want to hear your thoughts on that. The other one is the Six Moon Designs Lunar Solo. Have you ever seen that tent before?
I think so. Is that the one where the 2 poles kind of meet at an apex, and then it's kind of long and skinny?
I think it's only 1 pole, actually.
Okay, to be honest, Six Moon's design has like so many tents that I kind of get them all mixed up in my head. Also, their tents and tarp tents designs like mix up in my head. Like I've never owned one, so I'm just kind of like mildly aware of them.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it only takes 1 tent, and the duplex is like 6 ounces lighter, I think, because it's around 20 ounces, right?
Yeah, it's now they're like even less than 20 ounces, or maybe it's about 20 ounces or something like that.
Okay, and then I believe the Lunar Solo is like 26 ounces. So 6 ounces. I mean, for some people, you're probably listening and being like, "Fuck off, guys! Like that's only 6 ounces."
Yeah.
But for us, I would like to save 6 ounces. If that's almost half a pound,
That's a big deal.
So for that reason, I like the duplex. But price wise, this is where people are really going to be like, "Shut the hell up, you stupid ultralight gram weenie piece of shit." But price wise, the duplex is what, like close to 600, maybe a little bit less.
600, yep.
And the Lunar Solo is give or take 200. So big price difference.
Yep.
Big fucking price difference. So although I guess another point to the duplex is space.
Yeah, it's a 2-person one.
And I think I would probably get the duplex over the 1-person version or whatever it's called.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If you wanted to save some money in weight, like if you're also considering 1-person shelters, like the, what is it? There's the Altiplex is the bigger one.
Yeah, and then there's, what is it, the Plex?
Plexamid, yeah. Some
Z-Packs rep is listening and being like, fuck you guys, you're fucking up my product names and shit, but
yeah,
I don't know.
But no, that's another one, and it's like $50 less, so it's a little, you save a little bit. And
but if you're going to spend $550, you're like, what's another $50 at that point? So that's why I'm like, I'll add like a couple ounces to get twice as much room, but I don't know. I'm trying to decide between the two. I've also heard just from a couple people, so this isn't like a proven scientific fact, but I have heard just from personal experience, a couple people have said that the condensation is not as bad in the duplex as it is in the Lunar Solo, which is another point to the duplex. So I don't know. I'm still deciding, but I'm just curious to hear. And this is the funny thing. We hiked together for probably a little bit less than, probably around 300 miles on the AT, maybe a little bit less, but long time. And you guys were using the duplex, and I was just so not interested in gear back then. I never gave it a second thought. And there was lots of other people that had duplexes too, and probably lunar solos as well. And I just never cared, never bothered to talk to people about their gear and stuff because I just did not care. But here I am, like fucking 2 years, almost 2 years later, asking you about your experience with a product that I literally could have seen you use like for many nights. But anyways, that's what I'm about to do. So I'm just curious to hear about your experience using the duplex, and let me know if I should get it or not.
So I would say if you're willing to shell out the money, it's absolutely worth it. And I would say, it's hard to, that's the main hitch I would say. In terms of functionality, it's incredible. And I personally do think it's worth the money. We've gotten, between Little Bear and I, like between all the hiking, I did it myself, and then we did it together, and then she took it on the whole Colorado Trail last summer, and then we're using it again now. It has like over 4,000 miles. It's definitely beat up, but like it still works. It has like a few holes in it. It's really not meant for. It's been through like basically 3.5 through hikes at this point.
I don't think they would advise you to use them for that many miles.
Yeah, it's really not. And so it is like there's a couple places where the holes are like very small holes are starting to form, but like, it will keep you dry enough.
It's pretty damn good. That's not a knock on them by any means. That's a lot of miles.
It's really impressive for such a lightweight fabric. And honestly, like it's an amazing tent. It's so easy to set up. If you were using it as one person in there, it's a palace inside. Mm-hmm. It is so big. There are the only functional issues that I have seen with it are, and Little Bear, like this actually bothers her a lot more, and which is that if you're on like hard ground, if you're camped on a hard surface and it rains heavily, the splashback you definitely get a good amount of splashback.
I think I remember you talking about this in our last year episode, many months and possibly a year ago. I don't even remember when it was, but
that's probably the main functional like drawback to it is the splashback. If you're one person in there, you can just kind of like scoot into the middle, and it's fine. Or you can just kind of like, lean some stuff up against the netting and like just put your bag there or some other random stuff.
I feel like the splashback is probably an issue with most tents though, or at least the non-freestanding like trekking pole style tents or single wall tents, I guess I'll say, because they try to get a little bit more ventilation at the bottom, I feel like, but I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the thing is that the vestibule doesn't go like all the way down to the ground. I mean, it gets pretty close, but it's not like it's down. Like I used to have a Big Agnes copper spur, and that one, the vestibule was bigger, and it would get down all the way down to the ground.
That's the same with my Fly Creek. Yeah. And I think that's by design though. With the single wall tents, just to provide that extra ventilation. Yeah. Yeah,
and if you are aware of that, you can camp on. Hopefully you can pitch your tent on not on some ground that has at least a little bit of grass or something softer. And honestly, it depends on your tolerance for discomfort and being mildly wet. But like to me, you never get soaked with it. Like you'll just be like the outside of your bag would be kind of damp. But like that kind of happens in a downpour. You're probably going to be kind of damp anyways. So to me, that's not that big a deal. One other mild functional dislike that I have is that the pole is in the middle of the door. So like it's a little annoying. You have to kind of like.
But that's just because you're tall and lanky as fuck.
Yeah, maybe it's a me problem. But I mean, if you look there are other tent designs. Like there's the Tarp Tent Stratosphere, which is a 2-person tent, sets up with 2 trekking poles, and the door is like a half circle design, and the whole door opening is the pole is kind of recessed back away from the door, so you can get in and out. And so, to be honest, like Little Bear and I have looked, because we're also, we're always kind of scanning for like new gear that's coming out, and our tent's kind of beat up. So we're always thinking like, do we need to replace it? We've like been researching a lot of different 2-person tents, but none of them beat the weight of the duplex, and none of them also seem to set up as easily too. Like the Stratosphere is like 2 pieces that you have to kind of like, you can kind of keep them clipped together, but I don't know. There's just really nothing else that's out there. And I mean, if you've been on any long trail, you've seen like how popular the duplex is, and it's popular for a reason. Like it is expensive, but I mean, if I had to calculate how much we've paid per night that we've slept in it now, like it would be like dollars. So it's really not. I don't know. It is an expensive tent. There's no doubt about it. The justification was easier when we had 2 people, because we only had to buy it. We basically were spending $300 per shelter, which is like a pretty a reasonable amount. But honestly, you can, if you treat it okay, like you can get like I said, 4,000 miles out of it. And yeah, I really like it. So I can't recommend it enough. I don't really know of a better 2-person shelter. So, I mean, I haven't tried that many other ones. But it's honestly just for the weight. It's just like so much lighter than pretty much any shelter out there, unless you're going to not get a fully enclosed shelter. Right. So
did you use a ground sheet?
No. We've never used a ground sheet with it. So I mean, the bathtub has a couple places where water leaks in like a little bit. Maybe like one time we camped on snow last year, and we had it was a little damp in the tent in the morning. But I mean, it was not that bad. And so yeah, that's starting to fall apart too. But again, 4,000 miles on it. So
exactly,
yeah. So I don't know. I really can't recommend it enough. But it is expensive. That's the one trade off.
Have you gotten any other new gear since the AT?
Yeah, I after Arizona, with the longer water and food carries that I had to do, the pack that I was using, like I definitely enjoyed it, but it didn't quite carry. And
yes, I need a new pack too. Enough. So yes, sorry.
Okay. So last summer I tried a bunch of different packs, which is hard with cottage companies because you have to order them, and then most of them have a return policy where if you don't bring it outside, you can return it. But the one good thing about like trying out cottage company gear is like there's a really good resale market for it, especially for the gear that has like a long wait time. So like a long lead time for it to ship. So like that's the one thing is like, if you treat it okay when you're testing it out, you can usually resell pretty easily. But yeah, so I was basically looking for a pack that one was a little more durable because I had the Gossamer Gear Kumo, which I really like that pack. But it was the pockets on the side were kind of tearing off, and they did send me a replacement one for free. But I was like, I just don't want to deal with a pack that's going to do this again. Because I looked at the stitching and they didn't change. Like, it wasn't like they updated it or anything. So, so I decided, and it really wasn't that big a deal. Like I used the pack for literally thousands of miles with the pockets like tearing open a little bit, and it actually made it a little easier to like get the bottles in and out. So I can't say it was necessarily a downside, but either way, the other big thing was that the hip belt, actually by the end of my hiking, I was like pretty thin, and I actually couldn't tighten it as tight as I wanted to. So that was kind of a problem. They don't have like multiple size hip belts. The other thing is that it didn't carry like above 20 pounds very comfortably. Mm-hmm. I don't normally hike with more than 20 pounds, but there are situations like long water and food carries or really like cold gear, which all three of those I had to kind of deal with in Arizona, and I deal with more often in Colorado now. And also the two other Western trails that you might be alluding to, those are situations you might have to deal with more frequently.
Definitely.
So I figured that I was going to try to find a pack that was more comfortable. I still want a frameless pack because I do, just the weight savings is nice, and I don't really like having a frame. It kind of feels like it's...
Think of the weight savings.
Think of the weight savings. But yeah, it's the frame to me kind of like moves me around a lot. I don't like that. So I tried a bunch of different frameless packs. So I tried the Palante V2. I ordered actually a ULA CDT, which is the one you have, I think. I got a Z-Pax Nero.
Dude, holy shit.
Well, and I bought these, but I didn't bring them outside. So you can return them for free, right? So that was it was kind of like it was a lot, but it was
something
like I know
to keep you occupied while you don't have the time or chance to hike. I get it.
Yeah. And then I also let's see. And then I also ordered a Mountain Lore Designs Burn.
Which was the Z-Pax one?
It's the Nero. So it's their frameless pack. And so the ones that I returned the ULA CDT because it just didn't fit me very well. Even like wearing it inside, like it just felt kind of strange. So I returned that one, which is too bad because I like ULA a lot. Like I have the Ohm, and it's a great pack. But also that pack is it's a little heavy too, but the price is great. So it's all trade-offs. The Nero, the way they stitched the shoulder straps on, it kind of rubbed my shoulders in a weird way. And I saw some other people online complain about that. So I ended up returning that one too. I kept the MLD Burn because it is so comfortable. It is like you can load up like 30 pounds and it's so comfortable.
Which one is it? The Burn?
Yeah, it's like their 38 liter pack.
Yeah, you're going small small size.
Yeah, because that was the other thing is that at times, like, I mean, especially when I'm carrying like a one person shelter, like my pack, when you're like, have only a couple days of food in there, like my pack is so empty. Like the volume is pretty low.
Yeah.
So, to me, I don't really need more than like 40, 30, 35 liters. Like that's kind of the sweet spot.
That's crazy, man. I feel like, I don't know. I just have a 50 liter still. I mean, it's still super light. It's this very old version of the ULA CDT for those of you who don't remember, but I'm like scared to go lower. I feel like I probably could, honestly. It was very rare that my pack was completely full, even on the AT, and now I'm going to be even lighter and have less stuff, but like, I don't know, I'm just scared.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say it's worth a try. But yeah, so of all the ones I bought and like tried on at home before I returned them, I kept the Burn and I kept the Palante. And then eventually I was able to send back the Palante because it was an older design. Their newer design fixes this, but part of the hull loop was starting to like tear.
Okay.
And so they actually fixed it on their latest one. And honestly, that pack was amazing. I loved it. The biggest thing was like all the pockets and stuff. And it had the stashable hip belt, which is like a big nylon. It was like basically seatbelt material. So it was a very minimal hip belt, which was enough for me. The problem was the torso length is like 19 inches, and I have like a 21 inch or like 22 inch torso. So what would happen is I would have to put the pack super low for the hip belt to actually engage. And then the pack was like leaning in a weird, it was like leaning back away from me, and it would like swing around. It just didn't fit me. So that was very unfortunate because I loved that pack, and I was so sad when I had to send it back. But anyway, I did have to send that one back, but I got the MLD Burn. That's the one I've kept, and I've used that one a bunch since I bought it last year, and I absolutely love it. It's just so comfortable. Like I've kind of discovered that I tried also going like without hip belts for a little while, but for me, all the weight on my shoulders, it just kills me. Like after the end of the day, like I just want to like sit down and not hike at all. Which is like it's like the opposite of what you need in a thru hike. Like you need to be able to just walk as much as possible all day. So I basically was like accepted that I have to have a hip belt because I don't want all that weight on my shoulders. The Burn is super comfortable. It has a for the weight to comfort ratio is like the highest that I tried of all the ones that I tried. And the other thing is it has a top Y strap. So, which I was thinking for like Sierras, when you're carrying a bear canister. That was one thing the Nero does not have is a top strap. Otherwise, I maybe would have kept that one. But but I think a canister can't fit inside it too. So there is that. Having the weight capacity and that's another thing I didn't even mention is like, in addition to longer food and water carries and like more cold weather gear, you also have the possibility of like a bear canister, microspikes, an ice axe. Like these are all things I didn't have to carry on the AT. And so, basically like there's times when I might be carrying a lot more weight. So that's another reason I was really looking for a pack that can carry more weight. So yeah, I can at this point, I could definitely highly recommend the MLD Burn. And my friend Sweatlines, who was on like one of your really early episodes, he carried that on the Arizona Trail, and he seemed to love it too. That was kind of where I like got the inspiration to try that one. The one downside of the Burn that I've found is there are no pockets that come on it. So you can buy hip belt pockets with it. I did get those and I tried them, but I had to like hold both sides of the pocket to open and close it. It's not like the ULA ones, like it's sewn really directly into the hip belt, so it's very easy to open and close. So what I've ended up doing since then is I now use a fanny pack, which looks really goofy, but I absolutely love it. So fanny packs and I have the Thru Pack Summit Bum, which is like their larger pack, but it carries so much stuff. And what's nice is that you can see everything. Like the bottom pocket with the Palante, you kind of just dig around in there. You like hope you find the thing you're looking for because it's like below you and you don't really, it's behind you. But yeah, the fanny pack has been really awesome. And it's also cool because when you're on a thru hike, like when you're in town, it's basically like carry all your stuff in there. Like if you don't have pockets on your shorts and stuff, which I don't. So anyway, that was probably a lot more than you wanted to know, but
no, that's good. It's a long form podcast, bro. Yeah. That is a lot. See, in terms of packs, I've been leaning towards the Arc Blast, which is 55 liters. Z-Pack's Arc Blast, which 55 liters I feel like is a little bit more than I need.
More, yeah.
because like my current pack is 50 liters, and even that is probably a little bit more, but it's only 20 ounces for the Arc Blast.
Yeah, it's by far the lightest frame pack.
And the reason I'm thinking of going with it is because I've been using my Z-Lite pad that I use in my hammock as the frame for my frameless pack for all these years, for fucking years and years and years. And now that I'm not going to carry that pad because I recently bought a sleeping pad I'm sure nobody has ever heard of called the Neo Air X Lite.
Huh, what's that?
I don't know. I still don't know what it is.
You didn't get the Uberlite, bro?
I thought about it, but I don't know.
I don't have one of those.
And anyway, so now that I don't have the accordion pad, the foam pad, I was like, I don't know if I can use, like, I won't have anything to use as the frame for my pack now. But I actually packed my backpack today, or partially packed it, and will be playing with it some more after this conversation, using just a folded Neo Air as the pad, and it's actually not as bad as I thought it would be. So originally I was thinking I would want a framed pack now that I don't have the foam pad for the frame, but depending on how that feels with the Neo Air just as the pad, because I know other people do that as well, I might end up going with another frameless pack, so we'll see.
Yeah, I would say I don't even think you need anything. Like, for the longest time, I didn't even fold up my Neo Air into the back of my pack. I would just kind of roll it up and like stuff it in my bag. And so basically I had no back frame sheet or I had nothing basically on the back of my frameless packs. And if you just pack it correctly, it's not a problem. Like, first of all, the bottom part's probably a sleeping bag or a quilt, so that's not going to poke into you. And then the middle part, as long as you just kind of like move your shelter and or your food bag in the right way, it's not that big a deal. So yeah, I would say definitely play around with that, because I don't think for me, that's not a full reason to get a framed pack, just to have like something blocking it, because it's probably not fully necessary. The other thing you could do is like you could cut out just 2 sections of your Z-Lite and put that in there.
I thought about that. Yep, I thought about that. That was like my backup plan, because I'm not quite ready to pull the trigger on a new backpack like right now. So for the beginning part of the summer, at least, I'm gonna still be using my ULA CDT. So I was like, well, I need to do something. And I think, if I remember correctly, each section of the Z-Lite weighs like an ounce.
Yeah,
so,
1 ounce.
I could just use like 2 or 4 or whatever, and then have like a bonus butt pad too. But I'm not terribly concerned with that, so I don't know.
No, the Neo X Lite should work as a back pad, I would say. I don't think you have a problem with that.
I'll let you know how it goes. I know you're just dying to know, Baker.
Yeah, I have to know.
You're gonna be up at night, like, oh fuck, I really hope it works out for Kyle.
I have to unlock my computer. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
It fell asleep on me.
I get it. You're just checking your email and stuff while we're talking, because you don't really care that much.
That's what it is.
It's fine. This is the thing with me, because I've had the same gear setup for so long. Like, I get a lot of comments on YouTube now where people will be like, why haven't you done a gear, like a loadout video yet, like going through your pack and talking about all your gear? And I'm like, it's because, and I've said this on the show before too, I've had the same gear pretty much for so many damn years that, like, why would I make a video where I talk about gear that came out in like 2015? Like everyone's gonna be like, oh, ultralight gear video, let me look at this, and they're gonna be like, fuck this guy, I'm not gonna buy a fucking ULA CDT from 2014. Like, so that's why I haven't made that video, and that's why I feel like, for someone who has the amount of experience I have, I'm like kind of behind the curve on gear, at least when it comes to like specific UL gear like this, because I just haven't upgraded in so long. There's just so many new options now. And so it's good to talk about some of this stuff. What else? Any other new gear that you've gotten since we last talked about it?
I don't think so. No, I think that I did replace the pack, and I just got a new show. Oh no, I did. I'm sorry. Another thing. So this is like, after you finish the Thru Hike, you're like, wow, this sucked. And pretty much all the gear I had in the AT was great. But once I got to Arizona, like, I started like finding the shortcomings of my gear. That's when I was pushing the limits in terms of, usually it was comfort. So yeah, my quilt was way too cold on the Arizona Trail. I had a lot of nights where I was just like very chilly. And I have an Enlightened Equipment, it's the Enlightened Equipment Revelation, and Revelation. It's 20 degrees, but for me, it does not work at 20 degrees. And it's the model before they started adding the automatic overstuff, or basically adding more down by default. So I think now they're probably warmer, but the one that I have, it's just like, it's definitely a combination of not as much down, but also it has like 4,000 miles on it. So the down in there is very squished down, and I have not washed it, admittedly. So that's definitely my fault. The other thing is that the quilt is not long enough for me. That was just on my part. I made a mistake. So last year I was like kind of just trolling the UL gear trade on Reddit, and I saw someone was selling a Catabatic Allsec, which is like rated for 22 degrees. And their temperature ratings are like more conservative in that they put more down in there. And they basically have a higher target loft of what they're trying to, trying to have. So this thing it's a 20-degree quilt, and whoever bought it also added 2 ounces of overstuff in there. So it is like sleeping in a toasty oven. It is so nice. So, and the other thing is that first of all, I got the right length for me. So there's that. It actually comes up to like around my neck area and like the bottom half of my face. So it actually keeps me warm. And the Catabatics are honestly, in my opinion, they are just better designed than the light equipments. They're also more expensive, so there's that too. But to me, they have the design is so much better. Like, it's kind of hard to describe over just talking on a podcast. But I would just go look up the Catabatic quilts if you're kind of curious how they're designed. But basically, the bottom part has kind of a tapered sides that kind of tuck underneath you, so it's like very easy to get everything tucked in there and not have drafts come in, which is something I kind of had a problem with the light equipment. And so honestly, and the other big thing is that it's a sewn closed foot box, which to me has a big advantage. One, because with the ones like the Revelation, you can open it up or close it. The problem with that I had is I think the bottom, that hole at the bottom when you have to like cinch it tight, there's a little bit of hole. There's a hole, so
I think we talked about this on our last gear episode too.
Probably,
because you were like, "Oh, just shove a sock in there," and I was like, "That's a good idea."
Yeah. So I mean, there's ways to get around it, but that was the first problem. Is like the footbox was cold.
I agree, because my hammock gear quilt, I had the same problem with on the colder nights on the AT.
Yeah,
you do get a little bit of airflow through there.
Yeah, and the other thing is that the weights is because it's like a cinch on the bottom. It all just kind of like funnels down to a small point at the very end. And the problem I had is like my huge feet would stick up. Like if I was laying on my back, they would stick up into the loft, the down, and it would just push all the way to the outer edge, and my toes would be freezing cold. So the cool thing about the Catabatic is like, because I have the one with the sewn foot box, it actually had like, if you lay it down normally, like the foot box actually curves up a little bit. It's like a little raised up area where you can stick your feet into. And so it's like, basically it's not pushing up through the insulation on there. And so just in many ways, that quilt is a lot warmer. And so I've been using it a lot. I used it a bunch like during shoulder season here last year, like in September and October, and I had some very cold nights. I've used it a bunch in the spring here, and I'm always like super warm. Like I'll be sleeping in like 20-degree weather, and I have like a t-shirt on in there. It's and like no sleeping clothes at all. So it's just basically wearing like my shorts and my hiking shirt. So yeah, that's the other I did. So yeah, I guess I've changed my big 3 at this point. So
dude, it's absolutely freaking pouring outside right now. Can you hear that?
I hear that. It's coming down.
It was like almost sunny when we started this, and now it's just sorry, I got distracted there.
The mud season's not going away anytime soon.
No, it's not. I knew it was gonna rain today. It's supposed to be nice tomorrow, hopefully, but
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, wow, that rain is just intense. I'm gonna forget about that, and I'm gonna listen to a story, Baker. So 50 minutes in, I think, wasn't it, I forgot like the first 2 times we did episodes to ask you. That's like the Trail Tales thing. I have people share a story at the end.
I know.
And then for some reason, I forgot with the same guest like 2 episodes in a row, or not in a row, but 2 episodes that he came on. So I know you've told stories since then because you've done so many damn episodes at this point, but let's hear another story. What you got?
Yeah, so this was probably the most frightening event of the hiking that I did in 2018. So this was on the Florida Trail and pretty early on. And the funny thing is, like, before you go on like some kind of long trip, friends and family, like one of the first things they ask you is like, what are you going to do about bears? What are you going to do about, wolves, like all the different, or, mountain lions, like all the various, dangerous predators that are out there, or snakes and stuff like that. They're always like asking you about those things. And then I was hiking the Florida Trail. So of course people were asking like alligators and stuff. Like, how do you handle, like, what are you going to do? Aren't you afraid of being attacked by one? And so, I mean, as anyone who's actually hiked a lot in the backcountry knows that most wild animals are very afraid of people, even like the scary predatory ones. I mean, that's obviously there are exceptions. Like, you have to be careful. You don't want to get between a mom bear and her cubs and stuff like that. But in general, most wild animals are pretty afraid of you. So it was kind of funny. Like when I was thinking of animals that I was afraid of when I was out there, one of the first things I thought of was like, what about like dogs? Because dogs are not afraid of people. They're obviously very used to people being around. And so that was kind of one of the things I was kind of worried about. I was like, what if there's like someone's dog out there that's just like really aggressive and they're not around or whatever? But I was like, I'm not going to worry about it. Like there's so much other stuff to worry about. Like no point in worrying about it. So here I am like 3 or 4 days into the Florida Trail hike. And this is going through a section which goes near some, it's like sugarcane fields, like huge sugarcane fields. And so there are like, people who like work out there are living, like they have houses and stuff out there. So I'm walking along like on a levee, which is like a raised up thing that kind of, keeps the water flowing. It kind of channels the water through a different area. And so you walk across these like tall levees, which is pretty cool because you have these huge views of like the sugarcane fields and everything around you. But I'm walking along and there's kind of a house coming up on my right, like way in the distance, like probably 200 yards ahead. And I see a dog kind of running around outside, like clearly not on a leash, like outside the fence and everything. And I see this dog and I'm like, oh, well, I'm not going to worry about it. It's just a dog. Like most dogs are very friendly. And so I see this dog, I'm getting closer and it kind of starts to like bark, but it's really far away. So it's like, I think I'm fine. And the trail doesn't go like right next to this house. So I figure like, it's not going to be that big a deal. So, as I get closer, this dog is like clearly looking at me and I'm starting to get more nervous. Cause again, and like all these, fears that I've been thinking about earlier, I'm thinking like, oh, the dog, that was the one thing I was like actually kind of like mildly nervous about. Right. So I'm getting closer and now I'm probably like 100 yards or maybe 75 yards. And the dog just starts sprinting straight at me. And, dogs like to run up to people, so it's not like that unusual. But this was so far away. Usually you get kind of close to a dog and then they run up to you and like, want to get some pets or whatever. But this dog was like really far away and it was already like sprinting at me. So I was like, oh shit, this is like my worst fear right here. So it's getting closer and I have like time to prepare because it's like so far away. And so then I basically take my trekking poles and I kind of like stick them out in front of me. And I'm like, I guess this is my best, my best defense.
Not much you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, this dog is super fast. I'm carrying my pack. It's pretty heavy because I have a lot of food in it. And I'm like, I can't outrun this thing. There's nowhere like to run to because the one side is like the fields or like, which would be close to the dog. The other side is a canal with a bunch of alligators in it and like really deep water. I was like, I guess I could jump in there and maybe I could outswim a dog. But I was like, I was like not sure what to do at this point. So anyway, the dog is like coming at me and I'm like I was like starting to get into this very tense, like I'm like sweating. I'm like very, very nervous now. So this dog like it comes up to me and it starts to get closer. As it gets closer, it starts to slow down. And I have the poles out and I'm like, this is it. Like I'm going to stab this dog. Like I really don't want to stab a dog. I love dogs, but I was very afraid at this point.
Yeah,
I'm like full on panicked. And it's like barking the whole time. So it's not like kind of like jogging up to me, like all happy looking. Like it's like full on barking and sprinting at me. So it gets up to me and it kind of like slows down and stops like maybe like 10 or so feet away from me. And it's like barking, like really, really loud and aggressive. And you just don't know the dog. You don't know if it has intention to just mess with you because it's just barking and having fun or if it's like actually mad. And so I don't know. And this dog is like basically wild. It's not wild, but it's like there's no owner in sight. I'm walking by the house and no one's standing outside. It's kind of early in the morning, so there's no one around. So this dog is like growling and barking at me. It's getting closer and closer. Soon it's like basically in striking distance. Like it could lunge out and just bite me. And I'm like, on my poles, I'm like almost about to start stabbing at it. But I'm thinking if I like go to stab at it and I miss or something, it'll just like bite my arm or it'll just like jump on me. So it gets really close and all of a sudden, like I just wasn't even really thinking, just this primal instinct just like wells up inside me. And I just like "Rah!" I like literally scream at this dog, like with this like just like, you know, very primal, like just guttural sound. And like it gets a little bolder and closer, and then I just kind of lunge at it. I don't even like go with my trekking poles. I just kind of like, you know, like kind of push my whole, like, you know, jump at it with my whole body, and I scream again, and it backs up a bit, and I'm like, okay, I can see that's scaring it. So I keep doing it. I keep getting closer and screaming, and finally it just takes off, and I'm like, I did it. Like I did it. I was like, holy shit! Like I totally avoided this dog, and so it runs away. It's sprinting away, and I'm like, yes, like I did it. I can't believe it. And so I'm watching it run away, and I'm like, hell yeah! Like I just took on that dog. And so then it kind of like it runs all the way behind its house, and I'm like, that's great. But, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I don't want to just assume it's not coming back. So I kind of like keep looking back. Nothing's there. But then all of a sudden comes running around the other side of the house, sprinting right back at me. And I'm like, oh God. And so like round 2 again, here it comes, barking and growling at me. And I'm like, this is it. Like I'll stab this thing if I have to. And I really don't want to do that. But I was so panicked at this point.
Oh, dude, like, yeah, I can totally understand that.
It was really bad. So it gets close to me again, and I'm like, well, I've scared it already once without having to hurt it, so I'm going to try again. So yeah, it gets close to me, and I kind of just run a couple steps at it and just scream again, and like, you know, just like kind of just wave my arms up in the air and like just, you know, look as scary as possible. Mm-hmm. And it just takes off again. And I'm like, all right, good. It takes off again. And so then I start to walk away, but as I turn around, it quickly turns around and starts sprinting at me again. Like
Jesus
it was waiting. Yeah, I was like waiting for me to turn around. So then I turn around again and I run up to it, just start yelling, banging my poles together, whatever. And so then it runs away. And so then I walk backwards. I'm walking backwards past this house, and I'm keeping like my eye on it, and it sees me watching it, and it doesn't try to come at me again. And so I'm like, oh my God. Like, and so I finally get away from it, and it's all over. And I'm like, okay, I can't believe I just survived that. So it was crazy. And then probably a month later, the Florida Trail does go through some areas. Like it goes to a lot of areas with people in them. And so I had a few more dog incidents, and there was at one point where there was these 2 dogs that were coming at me from like, they just came running out of a house down this hill towards me. But they were these small little dogs, and every time after that, I was just like, bring it on, little dogs. Like if it was like especially if it was like these little tiny ones, I was like bring it on. And so I just like did the same thing. I'd run up to them and like make noise, and like I'm sure the owners, if they ever saw me, thought I was like a terrible person. But I was just like, I don't care. I don't know this dog. I don't know how friendly it is.
Yeah.
And so yeah, ever since then, I'm still wary of dogs. I'm still probably the most afraid of those of any animal I could encounter anywhere. But I'm a little like, I kind of know that. I mean, the thing is, if the dog actually wanted to attack me, I was just like, I'll show. Like I couldn't actually hurt it. If it really wanted to attack me, it could have like killed me. But I guess if you're able to intimidate it away from hurting you, then that works. So yeah.
That's an interesting story. Like you always hear about encounters with like bears and mountain lions and shit, but dogs, I feel like dogs are a threat on trails that have a lot of road walking or trails that are close to civilization like that. So
I remember Jupiter, and when his Sheltoe Trace videos, he mentioned a lot of wild dogs too. So yeah, he said wild dogs. I don't know if that means like just actual dogs roaming around in the woods, which is like even scarier, because those things aren't like, they're not being fed. You know,
those
they're
are
not
called
like
coyotes, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
So that seems pretty scary. And then ironically, I actually got bitten by a dog last summer riding my bike.
Oh shit.
Yeah, like that one, I couldn't scare it away fast enough, but it bit onto me, but then I like kicked it straight in the face. And again, I'm not afraid of hurting dogs now. Like I don't want to sound like a dog herder kind of person, but when dogs come up and
it's attacking you, that's pretty reasonable.
So I kicked it in the face. It did run away, but it actually bit me, and it drew blood, just a little bit, like just barely cut through the surface of my skin. But the guy who owned this dog, he was literally living in his RV, and not like van life cool RV, like living in his RV, like not out of choice kind of situation. And I felt really bad for him, but I was like, do you have any papers showing that you've like had this dog, like, you know, this dog's been vaccinated for rabies? And he had nothing. And I was like, oh God. But I was like, there's no way I could like get any money from this guy. And he wasn't, there's nothing he was gonna be able to do about it. So I just kind of like rolled the dice. I was like, I hope I don't get rabies, and nothing ever happened, luckily. But again, man, those dogs, that's the worst animal encounter I've ever had on any sort of outdoor adventure. So
damn, yeah, it's a good reminder to watch out for the dogs. I remember when I was watching this guy named Sai So, I think his name is.
Oh, yeah.
On his CDT vlogs.
Yep.
At the very end, he was going through New Mexico because he went Sobo, and he was talking about getting attacked by a couple dogs. Again, it wasn't anything that was super bad. He was fine, but he did get, I think, some light bites and stuff. So gotta keep that in mind, I guess. So
watch out for them dogs.
That's right. Who let those damn dogs out?
And just growl at them. Apparently they're scared of that.
Just like a bear, yeah.
Make the scariest growl you can, and it might work. So
Baker, thanks again, man. I feel like I said this like the last 3 times we talked, but if people haven't followed you by now on social media, I feel like they're just not going to. But
that's fine.
For anybody else who maybe just glossed over the last 5 times you've mentioned this, what's your Instagram?
It's at BBOKORNEY.
Awesome.
Not catchy at all, but it's not as cool as Cole hates hiking, but it's by name. So
good stuff. Thanks, man. Thanks to everybody listening, and have a good one. Dope.